Hello, hi. We are in day 4 of Indie Hacking Journey, and today we are going to cover this topic, what we discussed yesterday, to discuss now today. How to brainstorm great ideas, great business ideas, by written by Courtland Allen. He's an MIT grad, and he's the founder of indiehackers.com. Okay. Yes, so I guess this is one of the most uh, liked article in this website. Yeah, let's go. It's been said that ideas don't matter and that only execution does. I wholeheartedly disagree. You need both to succeed, but you can only get so good at execution. A great idea gives you much more leverage. Below is my framework for coming up with great business ideas. The basics. Most people equate product ideas with business ideas. Okay, that's wrong. Okay, your product is only one part of the business. There are at least four parts in total. Okay, the problem you're solving and the people who have it. That is the market. Okay, the distribution channels to reach customers. So the first thing is problem and the actual audience, distribution, and the third is monetization model you use to make money. So the monetization, so how you're going to make money, and fourth, the solution to the problem. Obviously, solution to the problem, a product or a service. Great business ideas are strong in all of these areas. Yup. Problem first, solution last. Hmm. The first rule is to put the problem first and the solution last. That's right. Your product should be the last thing you think about. Okay. So you have to find uh, the product problem first. Why? Because it's most flexible. You can build anything. But the other three aspects are constrained. You have to choose from a limited set of viable problems, channels, and models. Also start with the constraints. Seth Godin put it nicely in this book. This is marketing. Okay, this is marketing. Okay, sure. Uh, it does not make any sense to make a key and then run around looking for a lock to open. Okay, first we have to find a lock and then we have to find a key. The only productive solution is to find a lock and then fashion a key. It's easier to make products and services for the customers you seek to serve than it is to find customers for your products and services. If you find yourself trying to think up product ideas, then you are putting the solution first. Not only is that backwards, but it's harder. It's impossible to design a great tool for a job before you even know what the job is. So how exactly are you supposed to think up good product ideas out of thin air? You'll make your life easier and your business ideas better if you put the solution last and the problem first. What makes for good problem? The first step is to recognize a good problem when you see one. A good problem is one that many people have, otherwise you won't have enough customers. For indie hackers, this number does not need to be too big. Usually a few hundred thousand is enough. In some cases, much less. Okay. You want these to be people you genuinely like talking to because they will be your customers for years. And ideally, you have the same problem as them too. So you can emphasize with what they are going through. It's best if the people who have this problem hang out together and identify as a named group. For example, developers or teachers or MBA fans or YouTubers. That means they're likely to make all sorts of recommendations to each other, including product recommendations, which makes word of mouth growth possible for your business. It's also It also gives you juicy channels to target, which will come into play later. It helps if the problem is growing one, meaning more and more people have it in 1 year, every year. This sets the stage for your business to grow, and you want it to be a problem that people encounter frequently, so they will seek the solution on a regular basis. Finally, and arguably most importantly, you want it to be valuable problem. In other words, you want it to be a problem that people pay money to solve, preferably lots of money. Why do entrepreneurs earn more than others? Effort. It's fascinating to me that two entrepreneurs can put in the same amount of effort but get very different revenue outcomes. What factor do you think makes the biggest difference when it comes to earning more revenue? With more urgent problem almost always wins on revenue. The one in a bigger market with a more urgent problem. Okay, urgent problem. High value urgent problem. Finding a problem. So finding a problem. Okay. Armed with this knowledge, it's time to find a problem. You're going to have to brainstorm. Some people recommend that you just sit around waiting for inspiration to strike. I don't. That might take years, if not forever. Be proactive. It's hard to say where the best place to start brainstorming is, not because there are so few, but because there are so many. There are thousands of good problems out there, and practically anything can trigger you to stumble across one. So they have so the outer world has many problems. Out of all that, you have to solve one, not many. What's more important is that you recognize a good problem when you see one, and vice versa. If a problem goes poorly in the guidelines above, don't waste your time, keep brainstorming. For that reason, it makes sense to start with one of these guidelines in mind and let that be your trigger. For example, since it's helpful to solve a problem that you have yourself, why not take a look at your own life and see if you can spot any problem? What worries you, exasperates you, or annoys you? The other guidelines also work well as brainstorming triggers. Who do you like spending time with? What groups are you a part of? What are some problems you notice people solving frequently? What's something that seems to be going into a bigger trend? My personal favorite is to start by looking at where people are already spending lots of time and money and go from there. Money changing hands is almost always a sign that there is a valuable problem being solved. Avoid fatal mistakes. Founders typically have already made one or two huge mistakes by this point. If you can avoid this, you'll be way ahead before you have ever started. Starting with a solution in mind, I've mentioned this problem, but it's worth repeating. You need to be honest with yourself here because this is sometimes subtle. If you're already attached to a particular idea for a product, technology, or set of features that you want to build, that's going to ruin your ability to find a solved problem and analyze it objectively. You have put the solution first and it's blinding you to opportunities. Ruling out already solved problem. Nothing in the guidelines above says that a good problem is one that nobody is solving. In fact, the opposite is usually true. Almost all successful businesses start by tackling problems that have popular pre-existing alternative solutions. Too many founders are struggling to solve unsolved problems, not realizing that they are often unsolved problem because they have unimportant people and people don't care. They are unimportant. Okay. If people are already using solutions, that's if the problem is real. Being afraid to solve high value problems. Indie hackers in particular are notorious for only tackling cheap low value problems, but you don't have to sell something for cheap to have a chance at success. That's backward. It's actually harder to sell cheap things because people care less. I have bought more cars than back scratches in my life. This is true even if you are a small, scrappy starter. I have made two-person teams selling their software for $10,000 per year per customer. Pick a high value problem and charge a high price. Okay. Not having a specific customer in mind. If you can't articulate whose problem you're solving, how is your website put to the correct audience? How is your website going to articulate it? If you want to wait and see who the best customer turns out to be, that sounds a lot like a looking for a lock. Key looking for a lock. If you think your product is for everyone, you are neglecting to make it be great for any group in particular. If you describe your target customers by combining a bunch of attributes, that is, iOS users who need to get tasks done but prefer modern, clean UI, that's not an actual group of people. You're just describing the feature of a product you're already biased towards building. Hmm. Okay. Some of these points are a bit counterintuitive. That's why so many generations of smart but uninformed indie hackers are repeating the mistakes of their predecessors. But it's simple to avoid these kind of mistakes once you know them. It's a matter of knowledge and discipline rather than genius or hard work. Don't skip distribution. Once you have a good problem, you need a distribution strategy. Hmm. You need uh, so I guess distribution is the thing where you will be solving. So if you don't have a audience, how you're going to distribute? That's why before distribution, you need to find out who the audience is. You need an answer to the question, how am I actually going to reach my customer? The number one mistake here is skipping this step entirely, especially if you are a developer, a designer, or a creator of any kind. You are and see to get to the product. Growth related activities probably seem boring, perplexing, or even nefarious to you. You would rather just build something so great that it grows on its own. Sadly, that almost never happens. Relying uh, on it is akin to playing the lottery. Sure, you have seen some stories, some people win, but probably not you. Remember, remember that even though artists like to complain about the record labels, they do record deals regardless. It does not matter how great your music is if nobody ever hears it. Your business can't make money if you can't reach your customers. This is too crucial an aspect of your business to put it off and leave it to luck. Think about channels. Okay. Fortunately, brainstorming about distribution is easier than you might think. You're limited to a small number of channels that you need to investigate. From the book Traction. Okay. After interviewing more than 40 successful founders and researching countless more, we discovered that startups get traction through 19 different channels. Many successful startups experimented with multiple channels until they found one that worked. Okay, channels. Okay, we call these customer acquisition channels traction channels. These are marketing and distribution channels through which your startup can get traction, real customer growth. For example, channels include things like SEO, press, content marketing, social media, sales, partnership. Okay, These are the ways of distribution. Yes, those are called channels. I won't get into testing traction channels because that's beyond the scope of this post. But the first channel you start with should almost always be direct outreach leading to one-to-one conversations with customers either through the phone or in person. That's usually the easiest way to get your first few customers. You don't have to be marketing genius to send some emails or make some phone calls. You'll also be much more persuasive personally than your website will be on its own. You'll learn lessons from these conversations. The only reason big companies don't do this is because it's expensive and don't scale. But that doesn't matter to you. You don't have to care about scale when you're trying to go from 0 to 1 or 1 to 10 or even 10 to 100 customers. Don't copy what big companies are doing when you are a small company or you will throw away your natural advantages. Okay, don't copy anyone, just follow your own path. Later, however, scalable channels are important. It's not enough just to do a lazy launch because you can usually only do that once. You need to put some thought into long-term, repeatable channels. Luckily, since you started by thinking about the problem, you have some hints. You know who your customers are, right? So ask yourself, what channels are they already making heavy use of? For example, if I was solving a problem for software engineers, I would be looking for at GitHub SEO. Developers do tons of Google searches, at the news conferences, code-related newsletters, and podcasts, and YouTube channels and communities, Twitter influencers, boot camps, etc. These are all potential channels. If you can't think of anything recent, that's usually a sign that you don't know enough about your target customers and how to reach them. It's possible that you need to go back to the drawing board and pick a different problem or set of customers. Boring problem, innovative solution. Finally, think about your solution. How are you going to solve the problem for your customers? Don't just copy what competitors are doing. Yes, I advise you to pick a straightforward proven problem, but don't default to that with your solution. If anything, you want to solve the problem in the exact opposite way your competitor do. This is where you stand out. This is where you innovate. Inject as much of your unique personality and ideas as possible. It can even be simpler things. I made indie hackers blue because every other block was white. Okay. Hmm. More importantly, something unique. Okay. More importantly, your solution should be built from first principles. अरे, you should be taking everything you learned about your customers and working towards to build the best solution that fits their unique experience of the problem. This is the essence of product market fit, tailoring your product specifically to your customer's needs. You want to make it such a good fit for these specific people that it's no brainer for them to use it. Stripe, for example, knew its target customers were developers, so they focused heavily on great API design and stateless documentation. This is kind of advantage you can only get if you have identified a customer and their problem before you started on the solution. Otherwise, you'll build something generic. You also want product distribution fit. Find a way to extend your solution so perfectly fits your it fits into your chosen distribution channel. Boss, for example, gives out educational tidbits from his upcoming courses and it's some of the best content on Twitter. Indie Hackers hashtag one distribution channel was HN. HN. So I specifically modeled the interviews on the site after posts I've seen succeed consistently on HN. What's the HN? Again, this is the kind of advantage you can only get if You have identified a distribution channel before you started thinking about your product or service. Hopefully, you starting to see why the hashtag one worst things you can do is skip straight to the step and try building a product before thinking deeply about the problem and the distribution. If you can't think of a good solution, or it's too hard to or expensive for you to build the solution, or if the competition is completely unassailable due to something like network effects or economy of scale, then you may need to go back a step or two. Commonly, what you need to do is take the problem you identified in step one and shrink it a bit, make it some more specific so it affects slightly fewer people, a niche, and then try to think a channel and solution specifically for them. Start small. The final mistake is to avoid here is attempting to start too big. You're not Google or Uber or Airbnb. You're an indie hacker and you're just started getting started. Big successful companies look completely different in early days. Trying to copy what they look like today is a huge mistake. Okay, you have to work your way there one step at a time by starting small, accruing small wins, and building all of them. For example, egghead.io started with the founder's drill, finding a bunch of videos on YouTube, putting them in a zip file, and offering them to someone else's mailing list for a price. That's a far cry from what Egghead does today. But he couldn't have started where he is today any more than you can jump from the ground floor straight to the top of a staircase. Take it one step at a time. Okay. So starting is the main thing and just start. Just start. Okay. Like I'm starting from reading this all thing. Just start. When you're thinking about the problem you are solving and the size of the market, when you're thinking about the distribution channel and when you're thinking about the product, think small. Think small. Why? But the simplest thing you can do. Great. Now go even simpler than that. Okay, the one exception here is your monetization channel where you want to do the opposite. Charge more. Indie hackers should not compete on price. That's for huge companies like Amazon. Putting it all together, this post came out much longer than I thought it would, but once you internalize some of the lessons, you can actually run through this process quite quickly. True idea validation is going to require rolling up your sleeves, talking to people, and maybe even releasing a product, but you can make it pretty far at just the theoretical phase by thinking about some of the concepts above. As a sanity check, try reverse engineering a few other successful companies by running them through this process. We have compiled a huge list of founder interviews, podcast episode, and profitable product for this exact purpose. Oh, okay. So we also have these okay case studies. Okay. Mm. And then we have where is it episodes? Hmm. This website is all in all for Indian hackers. Like everything, you can find everything here about indie hacking. Shows, okay, so they also have shows. And the billboard. I'm 17. Oh fuck. I'm 17 and I built a agentic AI to fill the 15 minutes Shopify listing round. And he's 17. Is he making money? Let's visit his website. And is he making money? Okay, he's asking something. Messy product data into ready to publish. He's 70. Damn. And I guess this looks uh, vibe coded website. But yeah, that's okay. Hmm. The idea that great business idea come from real problems rather than random brainstorming. From my experience in the beauty business, okay, I have seen how small but specific needs like precise eyebrow shaping or skin-friendly grooming turn into a real business opportunity when done professionally. Ah, this really helped me. Every time I think of a problem worth solving, my first instinct is to search for it online. I ask a simple question: has someone already built this anywhere in the world? And almost every time the answer is yes. That's the moment when my motivation comes. It makes me question whether my ideas are already outdated. I find myself in this book trying to discover. Now I'm caught between two thoughts. Am I just thinking too late, or am I just looking at the wrong way entirely? No, the thing is your knowledge base. I guess for a person like him, he need to work on his knowledge base to increase the things he knows, and then only he will be able to decide what to do and what not to do. Because if 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 you continue gaining knowledge, you will be at a point when you will realize that okay, this there is a gap in here. So to find out that particular gap, you need to gain knowledge continuously. Okay, now my LinkedIn autopilot is 47 qualified groups. A3 update on superpower by Gemini. Okay, we'll go through all this. I guess uh, this is also good. And uh, truck actually making money. 28k MRR down 580k MRR. That's crazy. Hitting 7 million plus. Thanks to the pressure of bootstrapping. Oh, again this guy, James Fleischman. And this is very recent. Samir. Okay, this is about Samir Narkar. Okay, we'll go through each one by one, and obviously we'll try to if we are covering case studies, then I guess we will go through actual recent case studies from here. Okay, each day. Uh, 1.25 million crazy, and then uh, I guess we'll obviously follow this one by Paul Graham because Paul Graham is a known name, and then after I guess after a good knowledge about case studies, we should move to this thing. It's time to take we'll take some steps. But before that, we need to go through major case studies. This is also important among the weekend. Then building public. Okay, sure. grow in size. Hmm. So this is it for the day. How to brainstorm great business ideas. Thanks for watching.